focus in the past was the smokestack from factories, the pipes discharging the water, and the culprits were big industry by and large, or sometimes some small-time operators being irresponsible. But the plastic issue is really coming back to us, and climate change is certainly, we're as much culpable for that probably as some of the bigger companies in terms of not doing what we should be doing. Do you see that as a major focus change, that the responsible parties have changed to some extent?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you look at advertising, there's really great green advertising for companies that continue to pump billions of pounds of carbon into our air every year. I think companies want to appear green but can still do a whole lot more. If I was politically correct, which I'm not, I would say that we all have a role to play as individuals. I do believe that. You know, and as individuals, using the force of the marketplace, we can change corporate behavior. I don't think that really works. I think there are things we can do in terms of making smart consumer choices, but fundamentally we need the large emitters, which is power plants, manufacturing, and the transportation sector, to make a really substantial shift away from fossil fuels. You know, I drive a Prius, a hybrid car. That doesn't make a huge dent, to be honest. I take mass transit most days of the week. That helps. You know, living in a city helps. But we're still pumping a whole lot of carbon into the environment, even when we recycle and we compost and we shop at a food co-op and we use, you know, returnable packaging. We've got a long way to go when you look at the numbers. I don't think individual change is going to be enough. I think individual change can make a huge difference, but I don't think it's going to change the course on the climate equation.
What do you see as going in the big issues in the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, we still have a big toxic legacy to clean up. I mean, we've moved on from Love Canal, but we've got thousands of abandoned toxic waste sites that take a really long time to clean up. Within EPA, we're now shifting a bit toward contaminated water bodies, particularly urban waterways. The land sites took a lot of time and resources to clean up, but these water sites are really hard to clean up. The Hudson River, we've got 2 little waterways in Brooklyn, the Gowanus Canal in Newtown Creek, we've got the Passaic River in New Jersey. So this is happening nationwide. How do we clean up these contaminated sediments that are plaguing our urban waterways and you know, consequently not making cities as enjoyable as they could be as places to live? Climate change, of course. Overconsumption is an issue. We produce a lot of trash. No need to. You know, we can reduce our output. Recycling is essential, but waste reduction is even more important. And as local governments get squeezed financially, you know, why is New York City spending hundreds of millions a year trucking trash to landfills in Virginia when there's a lot of material in there that could be recycled or composted? We've encouraged the New York City transit system, for instance, to have newspaper bin recycling on subway platforms, which they currently don't have. So there's a lot of the oldies but goodies. There's also some important new issues like toxics in consumer products. Who regulates chemicals and shampoo and baby products? Tremendous amount of interest in organic agriculture. People want to eat healthy. So can we have a healthy food supply either without or with limited pesticides? Many young people that I talk to are interested in urban agriculture and local sustainability. I think, you know, the real hopeful developments in the last 5 years is a real interest among corporations and governments and the public in sustainability. And that's across the board. It's not just recycling. It's not just taking the subway every day. It's how do we live more sustainably, whether we're a corporation, a family, a church, or a synagogue. People are really looking for practical information.
Do you see a changing mindset within most corporations towards these issues, towards environmental issues over the last 20, 30 years?
No.
No?
I should. But, the advertising is,
Yes.
I mean, everyone's green, right? But some of it is greenwashing. Whenever we deal with companies, the fundamental driver is cost.
Right.
And sometimes environmental protection costs money.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaning up a river costs a lot of money. We
Mm-hmm.
just finished a 30-year epic battle with the General Electric Company to get PCBs out of the Hudson
Mm-hmm.
River. That was a 30-year debate.
Mm-hmm.
If they had just done it in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, they would have saved a whole lot of money on lawyers and lobbyists and put those resources into cleaning the river. Maybe we could actually reopen the commercial fishery on the Hudson, which was closed in the 70s because of PCB contamination in the fish.
Do you think I agree, do you think there's a difference, though, between their response to legacy sites, which is always a problem because
Mm-hmm.
they don't make any money off those sites,
Right.
it's just a drain, and if energy efficiency issues like where DuPont and others have really saved a lot of money by enforcing energy efficiency projects.
I think if they save money, they're interested.
They'll do something,
The
right.
tricky things are the items that cost money that they wouldn't normally
Right.
spend on. And then, for some of these companies, the way they make their products
Mhm.
is, the fundamental issue. I mean, I don't expect a coal company to change on their own
Right.
unless there's a law
Uh-huh.
that says we need to reduce mercury emissions. EPA's proposed an air toxics
Right.
rule to reduce mercury and other toxic emissions from power plants. That rule was in the making for 25 years. It's
Mhm.
incredibly modest. You have to install modern pollution controls on your smokestacks, and all of the major electricity companies in the United States are opposing that proposed regulation. So that's why I'm not as hopeful as I would like to be that companies are more enlightened. I mean, there are some outliers who say this is a reasonable thing. We should be installing these pollution controls, especially the companies who make the pollution controls.
Sure.
And, cleaning up the environment is a big business.
Right.
Lots and lots of people
Right.
make money, lots of jobs are created.
Uh-huh.
But it's really interesting to me that in this day and age, something as modest as an
Mhm.
air toxics rule that simply requires modern pollution controls is still being vigorously fought by the utility sector. It's
Mhm.
very 1980s.
But we know from what you've said so far that you're optimistic and you're going to give us 20 years as a solution for climate change.
Well, the great thing about climate change is we know what to do.
Yes.
When I talk to groups about climate change, I purposely don't start with the dire statistics,
Mhm.
because if you look at just the statistics on climate change, it makes you want to just go home, take long afternoon naps, and go to the movies all the time. It's just
Mhm.
sort of hopeless at times. But if you start with how do we reduce carbon emissions from the power sector and the transportation sector, we have hundreds of ideas on how to do this, including many, many that are cost effective. Carpooling, you double your efficiency.
Mhm.
Double-sided printing, saving paper. It's not even recycling, it's source reduction. If you had 5 hours, I could rattle off 500 things we can do to reduce
Mhm.
carbon emissions. We know what to do. What we don't have is the political leadership to get us there. And that's a matter of citizens paying attention and
Mhm.
weighing in. And I think particularly among young people, they're very good communicators.
Mhm.
They spend a whole lot of time on social media. They know how to communicate messages. The facts are compelling. Climate change is not a scientific issue.
Right.
It's a political issue.
Thank you, Judith. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, Bob.